All right. Good evening, everybody. This is Mac Bolin, owner and operator of Lock and Load Productions. And this is our follow up. We did a Knives 101 before, and I had knife maker extraordinaire Jack Stottlemyre on. And tonight I have knife fighter extraordinaire Mike Blackgrave on here. And we're going to talk a little bit more about practical application, knife fighting, and a little bit on the note of personal defense. It's probably going to get a little gritty if you are shy of heart, and if you can't handle blunt, brutal, obvious truth, I would suggest you do not watch. Mike, how you doing, buddy?
Man, I'm doing great. I'm laying down, folks. So if you're watching this, I'm in bed, man, because I just got done with a 7-hour training day, and my old ass is in the wind.
Yeah,
Plus,
but you
I
know
just got
what?
done with and some baked potatoes and all that good shit. So yeah, I'm ready.
You know, the thing is, though, I mean, we're both a couple of old asses here, but you know what? We never let age be a qualifier or a
Never,
hindrance.
because you know what? Violence don't give a fuck if you're 8 or 80.
Amen.
Don't hit you.
Amen.
You know.
So last week, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of recap. Last week, I had Jack on here. He retired from the military. He started up a knife making business, and turns out, you know, we covered a lot of quality products. He uses all kinds of stuff from mini guns, battle yard steel, as he calls it, and he made a knife for you.
Yeah.
And if you got it, go ahead and show everybody, because that's a big ass blade.
This is called the Blackgrave buoy that Jack made for me. And he made it because he liked my last name. He called me up one day and said, I'm going to make you a buoy. This is one piece of solid steel. He put the beautiful cross guard on it, black micarta, plain Jane, bead blasted, put my name on the side of it, Blackgrave with my bear paw, and of course his moniker. But this is a fighting buoy.
Amen.
There's no doubts about it. I mean, this thing here is light, it's fast, it's sturdy. And in Texas, I get to carry this bad boy.
Yep.
And I mean, there's a lot of guys who talk about, you know, they're fast with a little knife and they're going to gank a guy. I don't give a shit what you got in your fucking hand. You bring out something little to the fight, and I bring out Big Daddy Steel.
Yep.
Yeah, you're going to have a long, hard day on your hands. I guarantee it.
Yeah. Now, talking, because, you know, we're going to talk about knife fighting, and a little bit later we're going to get into some other stuff like personal defense, situational awareness. Yeah. But right off the bat, now your martial arts background and what your focus has been, just, you know, so people who are listening to this, because, you know, they probably don't know you or I, you know, some do, some don't, but go ahead and spit it out.
Yeah, I started years ago with my dad. My dad was my first instructor. My old man was 101st Airborne Infantry. And back in those days, they learned what they call combat judo. So my daddy always took me in the backyard, and he'd show me all this crazy combat judo stuff. From there, I was in a small town, so we never had any martial arts besides that. And I just started mimicking Peter Urban and USA Goju from the magazines. I was good mimicking. I'm ambidextrous. So I was teaching myself how to throw kicks and punches. And I wrestled a little bit in middle school and stuff like that, and then joined the Army. And in the Army, of course, you meet guys from all over the place who have experience, guys, you know, who are from New York City or from Hawaii. So I had buddies who'd show me a few things here and there over the years.
Mm-hmm.
When I got out, I came down to San Antonio, Texas, and I started studying Chinese Kempo with Gary Swan. And Gary Swan, Vietnam-era Ranger, a real tough son of a bitch.
Mm-hmm.
So I went through that. I went through that system, I think, up to a green belt, and then I went into classical Wing Chun from there, the Yong Ting system. It's training that for quite a while. And from there, I had the opportunity to study with Kiyoshi Wright, who was one of Peter Urban's top black belts from way back in the day in New York City, who had moved down here. He retired from the Army and moved here. So I took that advantage, man. I always wanted to train that system. And I trained, I'd say, up to Nidan level in that system 9 years. It took me, 9 years. And not only did I train it, but I started fighting in like Kyokushin knockout karate matches, things like that. From there, I went into Pakiti Tercia Kali, which is from Leo Gai's side of the family.
Mm-hmm.
And I earned my instructor rank under Ricky Riera. the late Ricky Riera and that was all because I got stabbed. I was working in a titty bar and I got ganked by a guy.
Damn.
I was taking his buddy out and didn't see this guy, and he looped a cut down screwdriver into my right lung
Mm,
and dropped me. So I really didn't,
damn.
I needed some knife work stuff. And Pakiti, we have a bunch of it down here because Leo lived here at one time. So I started studying Pakiti, and I stayed in Pakiti for about 8 years. I trained with guys like Ricky Riera. I trained with Leo Gahe, Erwin Vallarta, Tim Wade, who's very, very famous now. I trained with Tim and, Dustin Denson, some guys like that. And then from there, I started training back in Wing Chun under Sifu Scott Baker, who now lives in New Zealand. And Scott was not only of the Tom Hoon Fan lineage, he also had pieces of the other side of the pie, the Yongke San lineage, which is the other side of the Wing Chun pie. And I trained with him for a couple years. And, from there, I went into Calisa Lestrissimo. I traveled to the Philippines and stayed over there quite a while with Yuli Romo directly and trained in Lestrissimo, brought that system back. And I was teaching that system quite a while over here and still playing Wing Chun, of course.
Yeah.
And then I started developing my own system of CMOC, taking everything I've ever done, simple, effective, aggressive methods of combate, and condensing everything, making it a funnel system. 5 simple levels. You got 8 or 9 things at level 1. Level 2's got a few things. So it's a very combative form of fighting. And of course, I was always into firearms, so I put that into the mix. And, I dabbled in Bagua after that a little bit, just to keep my skill level. And now I'm finishing up the Duncan Leung work out from my good friend Dustin Carroll, who's a tremendous Wing Chun player. And so I'm constantly training, constantly evolving, constantly trying to make things better, looking to make things easier, more effective. But I've been training now 38 years, and out of those 38, I've been teaching roughly about maybe 22.
Yeah.
So I was 16 years into the game before I even started teaching people.
Yeah, for people who don't know the origin of Wing Chun, and of course, we all know who one of the most famous names is associated with Wing Chun.
Yeah.
Go ahead, speak about it.
Well, Wing Chun is one of those systems that gets drugged through the mud because there's a lot of mud draggers in the system. There's a lot of guys in Wing Chun who believe that it's all about the lineage. Well, this guy must have trained with Ip Man this time, so he's got to be the right guy. No, we have the right Wing Chun. We have the right Wing Chun. And none of these guys want to evolve. They all want to sit there and they want to kiss ass of Ip Man. And Ip Man, if you ever read his Quinn Kid, will tell you, to make Wing Chun, it has to be yours. You have to evolve it to make it yours. Where I do things 100% different than a lot of these guys. I take Wing Chun and make it simple. Wing Chun has 18 hands, 19 hands, different positions. Mm-hmm. Yes, I know all the hands. I teach 6. Why? Because those are the 6 that are more than likely you're going to have to use in any type of an altercation.
Bingo. The most effective.
The most effective. Studying with Sifu Carroll, we understand that Wing Chun is a knife art. It's not an empty-handed art. It's a knife art that transcends to the empty hand. They use a long pull, which is actually the conditioning for the blades and conditioning for the empty hand. But the thing that's great about Wing Chun, if you understand it and make it what it is, it's the science of infighting. Nothing more, nothing less. There's no magical mystery tour to this. The mukjong, the wooden dummy, people sit there and beat the hell out of it like it's a heavy bag. That thing is designed for positioning, precision, and to build speed.
Bingo.
Nothing more. So people, then they have the chi sao, the double hand rolling. Well, some people think chi sao is a fight. And I tell them, who the hell are you fighting with that? It's about a find. It's about finding position. So what I do to come out of the box, I do drills like chi sao, and I'll have my boys put on a training gun or a training blade on their body. I'll put on a training blade and training gun, and we're in equal pressure because we're in the rolling hands of chi sao. And you can go for your gun when you went to. I'll go for mine when I went to. We got to shut each other down. See, I take it to that level because to me, in 2018, if you ain't running practical, you ain't running nothing.
Amen.
The hell with tactical. The hell with tactical. As a civilian, you better be running practical. And you better be running guns and you better be running knives. Because if you're not, in this world today, people are just going to roll you over. So my idea of Wing Chun, and my Wing Chun isn't pure. I mean, it's inundated with my Lestrissimo, with my Goju, with boxing I've done. Everything I've ever done is in it to make it effective. So when people say, oh, Wing Chun's not good in a fight, I look at them and say, no, yours may not be, I know mine is for a fact, because
Yep.
I've used it plenty of times. So
And
it's politics, man. A lot of it's just political bullshit.
oh yeah, absolutely. Well, and we know how. Yeah, I could speak forever when you talk about martial arts and political bullshit because it's alive and well in the U.S. But speaking specifically, and I want to bring up what you said about practical versus tactical. Now, when you're in the military and you're operating as part of a unit and you're totally oriented on a tactical situation, it's completely different than if you're a civilian and you're in a situation where, and I right now, I live in a suburb of Chicago, River Forest. We had a huge spike in crime due to carjackings.
Yep.
And some of these took place at 3:00 in broad daylight in one guy in his own driveway.
Yeah.
And speaking first of situational awareness, you have to be at all times in tune with your environment and what's going on.
Exactly. And, in the military, you have the ability to be tactical because that's what it calls for, but you have a team behind you. You have comm. You have a bird inbound. You have a mic force. You have all these things as Mike Blackery, the civilian, I got me, Johnny Paycheck on the CD, a pump gun, and my pistol.
Bingo.
And if anything goes down, man, I can't sit there and be Johnny Rambo, man. I got to be practical and handle the situation. That's why I did with my buddy Court Bolton. We developed what we call gut bucket courses, and this is you. I teach guys. This is you, your pistol, or your shotgun, or your rifle, and a magazine. Because guess what? More than likely, if you don't have it done within that magazine time, you're fucked.
Yep. Yeah, and of course, I know Court also. I'm going to get him on a podcast one of these evenings. Now, going back to the knife fighting, so to speak, I was fortunate enough back when I was in the unit and Jack came after me. I mean, we crossed paths in the reunions, but I basically retired probably around the time frame when he came in. But we had a guy who came out. We paid for Gracie's to learn jiu-jitsu, pro shooters. We had a good budget. We had a guy come out by the name of Bruce Siddle, and he taught PPCT, which stood for pressure point control techniques. So if you're involved in a situation where you want to subdue somebody, but you don't want to actually do real damage to them.
Yeah.
And it was very practical stuff, but he also taught what is known as the STAR system, and you're familiar with it, I know, obviously, the Philippine knife fighting system, which is based on the lines that kind of go with a star, where slashes and strikes.
Yeah.
And we practiced it over and over again. And one of the first knives I bought that was a fighting knife, even though it was called a Gerber Mark II survival knife, it was nothing at all like an actual survival knife that a civilian would think of. It was definitely it was a fighting knife, double-edged, and for people who don't know what constitutes a fighting knife, you saw his heavy blade there. There are a multitude, but they're more than just the blade. They'll have studs on the bottom because there are more ways to do damage than just the actual slashing or stabbing. And a lot of people who are unfamiliar with knife fighting have no clue, what that's about.
Exactly. And that's one of the reasons I prefer a blade of this size, because it's an old Filipino adage, a big blade seeks both bone and flesh.
Yep.
With this Stoudemire bowie, not only can I slice you, stab you deep, hack you, but we do in CMOC what they call slapping with the bowie.
Bingo.
We'll slap you with the side of this goddamn big piece of steel in your head.
Flat blade strike.
Yep. Not only that, but you got the big butt pommel here to smash it down if a guy gets too close. And the way this is designed, you can see what I'm doing here. Here's my edge. I'm running the blade upside down. So now this is what they call subida agati, which is upside down edge.
Yeah.
You can see that. And if you ever read the sandbar, it says Jim Bowie gutted that man from crotch to eyeball. Well, he didn't do that with the back edge of that blade. He did that because he had that son of a bitch up under there in reverse grip. And now you're starting to see a different animal when you lock down on that notch. you're starting to see an animal with a big Bowie knife in your hand. You can do a lot of damage. A Bowie knife is never run upside down like this. The blade
No.
length, it negates what the blade is made for and what the blade is good at.
Right.
So understanding your steel, that's why I prefer a big knife, because a big knife can do what a small knife can.
Amen.
But a small knife can't do what a big knife can.
Yeah, and you know, and again, I learned, you know, it's funny that I would call a Gerber Mark II a smaller knife, but I mean, yeah, compared to a Bowie, which is halfway to a machete, it is.
Yeah.
But you know, at the same time, using that particular knife, I mean, I learned all the intricacies like gravity feeds, and for people who don't know what a gravity feed, that's just a fancy word for grip change.
Yeah.
Where you're going from a slashing, stabbing mode to a downward blade position where you can punch with the stud on the bottom or actually jab and slice.
Yep.
One of the things I also noticed, and this is kind of a funny story. And I know you probably being an instructor, back in my 10th group days when I was a team sergeant, we went out, we got deployed to Incirlik, Turkey, where we were operating in northern Iraq, doing security for the MSS and the no-fly zone and the Kurd security zone there. You know, we were talking about training, and I went to one of the engineers there on the base, and I had him cut out of pine a bunch of, you know, basically prop knives, you know, training knives, so to speak. And I told the guys, I said, look, guys, you know, take this for what you want, but I want you to learn how to knife fight. And I basically, you know, was training them. I got the colonel, the brigade commander's blessing off on it, which shocked the hell out of me. So we went into a racquetball court. We were playing around a little bit, you know, and I was trying to tell them like a defensive situation where one guy stands up against the wall, foot against the wall, can't move, defensive position, and the other guy can move and do anything. Teaching knife defense. And, you know, for a while, it kind of got a little goofy. And I finally said, okay, everybody stop. And I grabbed one of the bigger guys. I said, okay, go ahead, get in the defensive position. And he got there, you know, with his knife and everything. And I taught him the stance and how to use, you know, not just the knife hand, but the defense hand too, to protect the box. And I said, I'm not going to touch you. I'm not going to slash you. I'm not going to stab you, but I'm going to beat the living hell out of you. And, you know, he's like there. And I flat blade struck him, and this was with pine on his knuckles about 10, 15 times, which turned him into mush. Then when he kind of tried to slash at me, I took the butt of that knife, and I hit him dead on the forearm and that nerve, which you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, the nerve, yeah.
And made that arm go numb, and he dropped his blade. And then I finally said, okay, now you're dead meat. And when I jabbed him in the chest, the dang wooden knife broke. Now, this happened exactly at the moment 2 minutes after Colonel Fuller, the brigade commander, walked in and saw me bust a guy in the chest and watched the wooden knife blade break. And he looked at me and he said, Sergeant Bolin, you ain't going to kill anybody in here, are you? I said, no, sir. But I mean, it was classic. And I got my point across, you know, I mean, because sometimes, and you know what I'm talking about, you know, you have to build credibility. You have to demonstrate to somebody, hey, you know, pay attention because this is reality.
I look at it this way. When I teach my guys, I teach them the tools, and Court and I just talked about this the other day. You know, to train combatively, to get a guy to that level, you got to build tools, attributes, tactics, and then how to use it, you know, put it all together. But there's ways to get guys good quick, and a lot of times you got to pound on guys. You got to put them in a state of where they either respond or they get fucked up. Mm-hmm. And I use training knives that, you know, they're not steel, they're not plastic, they're kind of like hard plastic underneath, covered by padding. But when you get hit with these things, trust me, they drop your ass. And we do a lot of type of stuff, wall work. I call my course Wall Wars, where it's you empty-handed, and you gotta stop the ambush from a guy coming out of nowhere with his blade hooking you around the head and sewing machine in your ass. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you what, that type of training, man, the guy who's got the knife in their hand is going to take a beating on that arm, and you're going to take a beating because, you know, you got to work up to being able to stop it. But that's the only way that you're going to get guys good at stuff like that. All this stuff the Filipinos do with this knife tapping and this knife passing shit. I'm telling you what, the way I was taught it, it'll get you killed because it just doesn't happen that smooth and that fast. You get some tough Mexican down here with a goddamn blade, man. He's going to grab your hair, and he's going to go to town and start shoving that son of a bitch in your throat. Yep. You know, that's just the bottom line. Or some crackhead white boy with a screwdriver.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, one of the things, and this is something I preach on, though. You know, when I learned that particular, you know, that star method of knife fighting, I mean, the blades, the strikes, the slash, and everything are fine, but to refine and to be the word I'm looking for, maybe completely effective, you have to be able to function with the non-knife hand. And probably one of the biggest weaknesses I see across the board, and this ain't just knife fighting, I could say shooting, whatever else, is footwork. People have lousy footwork, and it is so hard to pound into their brains positioning. I mean, just the concept of positioning, the concept of footwork. And if you're out of position, you get jacked.
Pretty much. And what they don't realize is, like, I take my Filipino footwork from Illustrissimo. I can take my Goju footwork, and I take my Wing Chun footwork, my boxing footwork. And to me, it's all the same. It's just motion. And I run my pistols and I run my rifles with that footwork. And I run my blades with that footwork, sticks with that footwork, machetes, empty hands. So everything I'm doing, I mean, I'll run a pistol. And well, I've also trained with Russian Spetsnaz, Sonny Puzikas, who is a master of motion. And he takes you down roads to teach you how to tweak what you already do to the next level. Those cats are unbelievable. But the key is, if you let your body do what it knows how to do via your martial discipline, all you're doing is plugging in a different tool. Handgun fighting, rifle fighting, in my opinion, it's the highest form and expression of martial arts there is. I look at it as a martial art. I don't look at it as a separate entity. So many people take their work and they compartmentalize it. Well, this is what we do for this. This is what we do for the pistol. Well, this is what we do for the knife. Well, this is what we do for kicking. This is what we do. Well, if you do all of that and compartmentalize, what's going to come out when it's go time? All that compartmentalization. Well, you're going to be confused. But if you have a method to your madness and you run everything on a congruent motion, Jack, what comes out just fucking comes out.
Right. And that's, you got to train like you fight. And I say the same thing, you know, when I teach somebody basic pistol work, you know, just out of the box, and I'm saying, okay, if you're 3 yards away, and Rob Latham, I think, did an excellent job explaining this, hold the pistol so it doesn't move. At this point, don't worry about the sights. You're going to point and shoot and learn how to keep the pistol stable and yank the trigger. Yeah, you're probably going to yank the trigger, but learn how to keep the pistol stable, yank the trigger, and put 2 rounds in the chest. 3 yards, you're not going to miss unless you do something stupid and wildly jack a trigger, pull a pistol off target. And that's probably one of the hardest things for people who maybe have been trained classically in precision shooting and have to, you know, it's a tough crossover to make.
And in a live situation, I'm former Army, but I hadn't seen nothing compared to guys like you and guys like Ford. But I've done my share of violence, and in the few gun altercations in my life I've been in, guess what happens? You slap the trigger.
Yep.
Because you know what? When you're scared to death that you may get killed, and when you're trying to figure it all out, and this tunnel vision starts to hit you, I don't care what anybody says, your vision just don't open up like some god. Your shit gets closed and it gets small. And shit like, you know, trigger discipline, like, okay, let's wait for the reset. That never happened.
Nope.
I tell you what, I was letting that shit go as quick as I could. You know, I just wanted to get the fuck out of Mexico at the time. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. And the thing is, you know, and I'm not, you know, learning proper marksmanship, you know, and I love shooting competition, even though it's a game, because it, you know, it will still enhance your skills. It will put you under stress. And if you want to be a better shooter, shooting under stress is the best way to become a better shooter. Exactly. You know, where your heart rate's elevated, where you're freaking balls to the wall, where you're breathing hard, where your muscles, you're tense, everything. That's the best way to learn how to deal with a stressful situation. And if you ever are
Exactly.
in a self-defense situation, make no mistake, there's going to be a lot of stress.
Yeah, there's going to be a ton of, and it doesn't even have to be in a gunfight.
No.
I mean, I was a bouncer in some of the meanest titty bars and some of the meanest biker bars down here. Let me tell you what, when it went to Fifth City, let me tell you, stress adrenaline's a real thing, because next thing you know, you got a bottle flying at you, you got guys
Yep.
with pool sticks, you got a bunch of fucking one percenters about to cave your skull in, and there ain't been a gun or a knife drawn yet.
Yep.
You know, so violence is violence. I mean, it's not in a vacuum. So that's why I keep trying to reiterate to all my guys and to everybody, you have to be good at this across the board. You
Yes.
have to have empty hands. You have to be able to use your feet. You have to be able to think on the fly. You have to be able to run a knife, to run a club, to run whatever you pick up. You have to be able to run multiple forms of rifles. If you can't run an AK and an M4 platform, well, you better learn, because those are the two most prominent of those type
Yep.
of weapons in the country. If you can't run a revolver and run a semi-automatic, run a 1911, you need to learn that shit, because that's what's prominent. But all this stuff takes time, and it's just not a hobby. For guys like me, this is what I do. This is what I
Right.
do for a living. I teach. I train. After 38 years, people think I got it. I ain't got shit. I go see Sonny. I go see guys like you. I go see Court. We put stuff together. I go see guys like Kenny Bigby, my buddy Brian Holiday out in Arizona. Balintawak guy, he's teaching me because I go to these guys, because even after as an instructor, if you're still not a teacher, something's wrong with you, because
Right.
you don't know it all. There is no self-defense experts. If you think you're an expert, you might as well stick your head in a sandbox, man, because you're done. You're done
Yep.
growing.
Well, and learning is a constant curve. And that's something, I loved, in my former unit, because they always said it was an ongoing process. And every day you walk in the door, you want to test yourself. You want to find something, you want to learn something different, and that's the attitude you have to have.
Yes.
And the second thing is, when we talk about a self-defense situation, attitude is a huge part of it. And attitude and confidence comes through training. And
exactly.
If you don't have that, you don't get the other. It's that simple.
Exactly. That's why what we do cannot be a hobby. I have people all the time, Mike, why don't you just put on a simplified self-defense workshop for women? And I said, why would I do that to them? And they're like, what do you mean, why would I do that to them? My whole thing about teaching women is how dare I go light on them? How dare I dummy it down? How dare I make it so they could just get through it? I wouldn't do that to them. That's not fair to a woman, because guess what? Ain't nobody in the street who's going to try to rape you or rob you or beat your head into pulp is going to go light on you. So
nope.
I try to get away from this. Let's just do a self-defense workshop. These people are going to come to this thing. They're going to maybe half-ass it through. They're going to maybe learn one or two things that they're never going to practice again.
Yeah.
And there you go. And then they say, oh, it didn't work. Well, no, it works. You didn't work it.
Yep. Yep. That's it.
Now,
on a side note on that, I just Ronda Rousey, who I've known back in the day, as long before she was an MMA superstar, she was an accomplished judo player.
Yep.
And she would come up here to Cohen's to train, and not for 1 second did any of the guys like Aaron Cohen, RJ Cohen, Justin Flores, any of the guys cut her a bit of slack. They whipped her ass. Yeah. I mean, they beat her ass. They threw her all over the place. But you know what? That's what made her such a tough female competitor, and why, her training and the people she worked out with ended up as a bronze medalist in the Olympics.
Exactly, because if you'd have cut her slack, her judo would have.
You're selling her short. You're selling it short, and you can't do that.
I call that deep end training. I don't teach kids for obvious reason. I teach my own kid, but I don't teach kids.
Mm.
And it's amazing what an adult will do when you throw them in the deep end of the pool. So when I get guys coming to my Wing Chun class, and I start everybody with Wing Chun when they come to me, because I found out a majority of people, they have zero goddamn hands, and they have zero idea. And so I start them stepping, I start them turning the horse, I start them throwing punches, I start them throwing finger jabs, I start them on using Tan Sao shields, on using Quan Sao, on using Gan Sao, all the different Wing Chun hands that I teach that are not blocks but covers and shields and attacks. And within a matter of 2 weeks, I've already got this new group stepping, turning, moving, shooting multiple shots. I've taught them 2 basic kicks. I've taught them some sabaki movement, how to move in and how to move out, how to stop attacks, how to stop clinches, how to do these things within 2 weeks. 2 weeks. That's because every time they leave my class, I want them to learn something. So when they come to class tonight, we drilled tools and stepping, because what else is there in a street fight? Your opportune time is going to be slim and none. So if you know as a grown man this shit's about to go down, all the Wing Chun hands in the world should never come first. They should be forced out of you. You should be stepping on a son of a bitch and smashing him in the face.
Yeah.
And that's the way I teach it, because if it's going to be violence, what the hell are you doing waiting for this guy to go first?
Yeah. And that kind of goes to the situational awareness thing. You know, you need to be able to perceive and notice. I mean, if somebody's getting ready to dig in your shit, you know, you got to pick that up.
And that's where that OODA loop comes in, that awareness, that observation. Yep. I talk about it all the time. Precursor signals to violence: a guy dipping his shoulder, a guy rummaging in his pocket, a guy reaching in a coat, a guy showing you a shoulder, a guy raising a hand this way to bring one this way. All those things have to be addressed. And me personally, I'm not the type of person the guy says, well, what are you going to do? You might get what out of your mouth before I smash you.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm already I'm not worried about going to jail. I ain't worried about that bullshit. I got a fucking great attorney on and I'm good friends with the fucking DA. The DA's a Wing Chun guy here, so go figure. So I don't worry about that shit. And I got some exfil cash put away, and I know how to get to Mexico. So I'm not worried about that shit. But if people let ramifications of action hinder what they have to do to win, and I'm not talking about surviving. Here again, this is a mindset thing. All these people, man, I just want to survive the fight. I always tell them, go downtown and look at fucking survivors photos at your police lab.
Yeah,
go down and look at that. I'm gonna win this son of a bitch. And I know it sounds cliche, Charlie Sheen, but people say there's no winner in a street fight. I'm gonna call complete no to fucking bullshit on that, because you goddamn right there's a winner in a street fight. I'm the guy going home at the end of the night, just maybe have to bandage up a busted knuckle. You're the guy going to the fucking hospital. Amen. And that's the way I look. I don't look at it as everybody's a loser in a street fight. Bullshit. I don't know what street you've been on, buddy, but it ain't none I've been on.
Now you currently live in Texas, correct?
Yeah, I live in the greatest country in the world, man. By God, Texas.
And if somebody was interested, say, in contacting you about training, etc., how would they go about it?
Well, man, they can get me on Facebook, Mike Buana Blackgrave. You can catch me on my email at mblackgrave@gmail.com. And I don't give out my phone number, man.
No, don't.
one of those 2 methods right there, man, and ask around. I don't advertise. I run out of my garage in my backyard in the park. I accommodate people's schedules, and I'm in my garage all day training, man. Whether I got my weights, I got my wooden dummies, my wall bags, sweating, putting on my classical music while we're working out and kicking ass, man.
Mm-hmm. Now your wooden dummies, which I really like, because you do show them. What is the importance? You know, like the rods, the wooden dummies, as far as you use particularly for both your footwork and your handwork.
Well, I do it a little differently. The wooden dummy is supposed to set up right above your nipples. Ooh, nipples. It's set up right there, and I always keep the arms parallel, and then the middle arm goes to the navel, and of course, I had mine custom built for my height, so my leg comes up it comes right up to my knee height, and it has a trapping leg. And what that dummy does, it gets you in position, because just like in the military, you don't move the rifle, you don't move yourself around the rifle, you move the rifle around you, right? Mm-hmm. That's what you're doing with the dummy. You're working position. I'm working all my hands. And if you understand the Wing Chun dummy form, everything and every tool in Wing Chun and every form is in the dummy. And so you start to learn how to put combinations of hands together, strikes together, how to move in on the dummy, how to move out on the dummy, how to do all these things. And that's just using the empty hand. You know, you learn how to kick the knee. You know how to use multiple kicks, kicking the body, grappling. You learn how to do all these things with futsals and all these grabs. But the cool thing about the dummy is take it out of the box. Most people just use it for that. I go out there with my training blades and I work close quarter knife on it. And then what I do is I take out the arms and I put in 7-foot long poles that or waxwood poles that go into where the arm slots are at. So now I got something that if you fuck up and you hit it, it slaps you in the face. So now you're building sensitivity. Then I take my stick work and I work my sticks on the long arms. I take all of the legs off and arms off, and now I lift it across my shoulders and I go run hills with it. Or I do squats with it. I do all kinds of shit. I hook up my cables to it through the holes, and now I do an isometrics with cable bands, doing punches. I'm very innovative when it comes to this stuff. So a wooden dummy to me, you know, the only thing it's missing is boobs, man. That's it.
And folks, for those of you who don't know, Mike is not a small dude. Just to be straight, you're well over 6 feet and probably, what are you, 300 plus or two?
Matter of fact, man, I've lost some more weight. I'm trying to get back
Good.
down to my hockey weight of 275. I'm 6'5", and as of today, I weigh 297. So I come down to 331.
All right. Yeah, I was talking with Jack, you know, and I was saying, because Jack's actually not a small dude either, but
yeah, Jack's a big old boy.
Yeah, he's a big old boy too. Now me, I'm a little guy, you know. I'm 5'7", about 160 something pounds right now, but I make the best use of what I got.
Yeah, but you're Mac Bolan, man.
Yeah, well. So going back to situational awareness, and you know, I want to bring up, you know, we talked about like the carjacking thing.
Yeah.
And you know, one of the most important things you can do, you know, and I always tell people, you know, even if you don't want to be a black belt, at least learn something. At least learn how to protect yourself.
Sure.
Learn how to shoot. Learn how to take care of yourself. But pay attention to your environment. You know, even if you're in a Walmart one day and you're just wandering around, or you're going out to the parking lot, or you're 6, 7 p.m. coming back from the store, pulling into your driveway, and a car comes in behind you, comes slow, and guys get out. Hey,
yep.
Hello.
Yeah.
Flag should go up.
You know, even back that up a little bit more. If you're a parent, why wouldn't your awareness be up there? I got a little 9-year-old daughter, man. My awareness factor, I don't want to see her wander off. I don't want to see her talking to somebody she doesn't know. And if you got smaller children, you better have an awareness factor, because this is a rotten, goddamn shitty world we live in.
Amen.
People blow you up with mail. People kidnap kids. People, you know, they shoot you at the goddamn Waffle House. Now, there ain't nothing more blasphemous than getting shot at a Waffle House.
That definitely is sacrilegious.
And that to me, I mean, that's the goddamn rat shit world we live in. And, you know, I have friends all over the world said, well, it's not over here like that in England. Well, bullshit.
You get stabbed.
Yeah, you get stabbed. Australia, we don't believe in guns. Well, that's why you got you had 8 people killed the other day.
Yeah.
You know, come on. It doesn't matter where you're at, man. We are in a rat shit world. And actually, I think the whole goddamn world is at war. You know,
more or less. That's a fact.
The divisiveness in this country pushed. You know, everybody's pissed off at everybody, man. Everybody's offended about something. Everybody wants to fuck somebody up, but nobody's willing to put the work in for it. Nope. You know, it's a bunch of shit.
Yeah, it is. And, you know, it's unfortunate, but that is the world that we're living in, and you got to accept that fact. I mean, 50 people in a gay nightclub in Pace, Orlando, going about their business, probably had no idea they were going to get shot to death by a maniac.
Nope. Over in France at that rock concert, guys listening to some rock. Next thing you know, here comes fucking Haji Phil and the fucking Funky Bunch with AK-47 smoking.
And grenades and... Yeah,
Yeah, I'm a little bit different, man. I mean, I go to every place I go. I don't go out a whole hell of a lot to places. I don't like crowds and things like that. But every place I do go, I'm packing.
yeah,
I'm always carrying, and I always got either the gauge in the truck, or I always got an M4 or my AK in the truck with me. If I'm traveling to go do workshops, brother, I'm carrying heavy because you just don't know what's going to hit. Now, a lot
you
of people
don't.
say that paranoid. Well, maybe to your snowflake mind it is, but to me, I call it prepared.
Yeah,
You
well,
know,
and look at California, which had all these strict gun laws, and it didn't prevent two Hajis from shooting up a bunch of people with illegally obtained
yep,
weapons that were
yep,
illegal in that state, and all their gun control laws were useless in stopping that massacre.
amen. And it's nothing's going to change. People are going to do fucked up shit, man. And everybody
Amen.
said, like, well, if this guy going into the school didn't have a gun, and what if he had a knife? And I'm thinking to myself, you know what? Just think about that. Some crazy son of a bitch with a butcher knife going in there and into a grade school. There'd be a lot of motherfuckers dead.
Absolutely.
Look at China. How many did that guy kill over there?
Yeah, a
Like
bunch.
46 or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
It's crazy. So these, I don't know where these people, and I'm gonna call it like it is, fucking leftists. I don't know where their fucking heads are at, man. I don't get it. My
Well,
mom,
they're mostly up their asses, but that's another story. But
my mom survived communist Russia. She escaped communist Russia. She lived
mhm.
through Nazi Germany. She's an older woman now, and she told me, and she tells me all the time. She goes, "I've heard all these words before. I've seen all these actions before. I know exactly what's coming in this country." And she goes, "It's already here." And she goes,
Yeah.
"Now it's probably too late to change it." And it's a fact. We were at what the hell was that at? We were at a Whole Foods, and this girl who was cashier, she had on a Che Guevara shirt. And I remember we asked her about this Che shirt, and we started. My mom, being who she is, started questioning her about socialism and all this stuff. And this dumb bitch had the balls to say, "Oh, it's a different type of socialism. It's not like the old days." I was like,
You mean like Venezuela right now?
"Yeah, yeah, that's it,
Yeah.
man. Yeah, that's it."
Yeah.
And these people, they don't realize if it ever went full boat communism here, all these cocksuckers who help harbor it in, they're all going to get killed first.
Yep. Yeah. Well,
They know too much.
it's shocking to me when, I mean, you go back 60s, 70s, whatever, we had Muslims living in this country for years and years and years. Never had a problem.
Yep.
But just within the last 10,
Nope.
20 years, you go to a place like Dearborn, Michigan, and actually, Michigan right now has a Muslim running for the Democratic Party for an office. And the dude at the end of a debate said, "You may like Muslims, but they all hate you. Doesn't matter what you think. We all hate you." And I mean, the guy just, bang, dropped his hand right there. And I'm like, well, hello, not, don't take a brain surgeon to figure that out. They'll never assimilate into this society. Their goal
No,
is to bend this society to their way of thinking.
I've never understood that. These son of a bitches, they run from all these fucking shitholes around the world, and that's what they are, is fucking shitholes, because I've been
Yes,
to
they
some of
are.
them. And they come over here, or they come to the Western states or the Western countries, and they're begging for mercy. They're begging for this. They want a new life, but then they beg to bring that same old bullshit that killed that country to the new country and killed that. The only country that's worth the fucking Europe anymore is Poland,
Yeah.
which what's once was an Eastern Bloc country is now the only Western-minded area of Europe. France is lost. England is lost. Germany is so fucking lost. It's
Oh,
not even funny.
it's a shame. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a
my mom
shame.
went back. She went back a couple of years ago. She was from Berlin, and she walked through the area where she was from, and the street that she used to live on, and she said it was nothing but open sewers.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
sad. It really is. And
yeah,
seeing the fall of Europe and what's happening in the UK right now should be alarming to people. I mean, Sweden, all these countries that, just took everybody in and now they're suffering for it.
yeah. They are. And
And they can't,
you
and they're
saw
not,
them
they're
attack. What were they doing in England? They were attacking the cops, the cars with bats and blades.
nothing.
But the police don't have guns over there, so they're not.
Nope.
I'll tell you what. Do that in San Antonio, Texas, and see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, a
know,
little bit different, kind of like the guys who showed up to shoot up the Draw Muhammad
yeah.
yeah, the Draw Muhammad school thing, and neither of them walked away alive.
There, after that, there was a big old billboard that some rich son of a bitch put up there and said, "Texas 2, Haji 0."
Yep. But
So,
that,
hey,
and it's sad to say, but that's something though that unfortunately in this country we're going to have to start worrying about. And
yeah,
you look at what happened in Minnesota when Drayton, idiot,
yeah,
asshole, former Target CEO, governor, brought in all those Somali refugees, and then come to find out they're taking all the taxpayer funded money that they were receiving under the RAP program, Refugee Assistance Program, and
yeah,
sending it back to Somalia to support the freaking terrorist group there.
yeah, buddy.
It just, hello, wake up, people. These people are stupid.
And then we have organizations like CARE. All
Yep.
this shit. And here again, and this goes right back to what to people like us who are always vilified. Let's be honest, call it like it is.
Yep.
We're white, we're veterans, we're gun
Yep.
owners, we're right wing, we're all these things. So now all of a sudden we're the enemy. You know, we could be in the right, 100% in the right, but some left leaning fucking piece of shit Democrat, DA is going to vilify and crucify us because we were in the right and we
Yep.
offended somebody. You
Yep.
know,
Yeah, it's a
that's
shame.
the way it is. And people who don't understand that this can touch them too, that this type of violence can touch them. And I've got them in my own family. Well, I live behind gates. Nobody's ever going to do nothing here. Well, let me tell you, sweetheart, I used to be a bad guy. I would hunt in those areas, you know? And these people don't understand that. They don't think this can ever touch them until the rifle's in their neck.
Yeah, well, and the people look at California. California, probably the biggest example of total progressive liberal policies gone wrong. And the
Yeah.
people like the idiot Maxine Waters, who talks about open borders, who lives in a gated community and has a security detail. And what
Yeah.
Governor Brown has done to that state, it's pathetic. But that's going to
And,
be a
what he did to it the first time was pathetic.
yeah.
The only thing that guy ever did worth of shit was bang Linda Ronstadt.
Yeah, there
That
you
was,
go, Linda Ronstadt. Yeah, I'll give him marks for that, and that's about it.
and now you look at what's going on. I mean, they're banning the Bible. They are
Yeah, I want Christians to evolve.
You know, it,
Yeah.
it blows. But down in the South, you go down into Alabama, and you got these guys who are white guys down there. They just want to be left alone. But now all of a sudden, the Southern Poverty Law Center, who is the biggest outlaw,
They're a bunch of crooks. Yeah, the Southern Poverty Law Center is a bunch of crooks. They're idiots.
and so they sit there and they run exposés on people that are good
Yep.
people, saying they're this, that, and the other. My God, they had Dr. Ben Carson on their hate watch list.
Yep.
They had the U.S. Border Patrol on their hate watch list. But yet these morons funded by the millions giving these assholes more money to do whatever it's amazing. This country, sometimes it's like Waylon Jennings said, man, stop the world and let me off.
Yep.
Yeah,
well, I'm gonna have a podcast coming up, probably if not this week, next week, on immigration and immigration gone bad. That's going to be pretty harsh, but target on.
Hey, man,
you got to speak the truth.
Yeah, everybody's so worried in this country about being right, they forgot how to be real.
Yep.
That's what it is. That's just what it is.
Amen.
I'm too fucking old to be jumping in the lockers. Fuck that. I'm gonna spit it out there, and whoever don't like it, they can kiss my balls.
Yep.
Plain and simple.
All right. Well, everybody, I'm going to get ready to shut this down. I hope you all enjoyed it. We talked a lot about knife fighting. We talked a lot about personal defense, etc. For God's sakes, take care of yourself, educate yourself, train yourself, be smart, be prepared, or, God forbid, be a victim.
And always remember, between